Warning. Gory Storytime is a horror movie review show by a son and his dad who thought that letting his 5-year-old watch scary movies was acceptable. If you are offended by horror or talk about blood and gore by a child, or if you don't want horror movies from the 60s through today spoiled, then there is a remote stuck in your couch cushion next to potato chip crumbs. Use it. And of course, parental discretion is advised.
Why? You didn't use any.
Shut up and start the show.
Story time. I'm your host, Jason.
And I'm his co-host and his father, Craig.
And this is the second week in a row we're doing this on a holiday.
No, this isn't a holiday for us. Come on. Sarcasm. Anyway, this week we're reviewing our fourth in our series of 4 80s slasher flicks. And this one wasn't as slashery as the others.
As I had anticipated
I
it to be.
specifically requested a list of like the
goriest slashers
movies.
And she was like, here's a crime mystery about bugs.
That also did have, I mean, I could see
had
it,
death.
big horror with the, yeah, but weird. More of a sci-fi
It was like
thriller.
a wicked long episode of
X-Files by
X-Files.
actors who can't.
Right.
Anyway, we'll get into that. But the movie this week says there it's called Phenomena.
It's Creepers.
It's also called Creepers. They changed the name at some point. I don't know why. It's not in one of our facts, I don't think.
Between the poster and watching the movie, it didn't have the same name.
Yeah, if you go on YouTube, it's there, and it will be under Creepers from 1985.
Right.
But
IMDb has it for both.
I think
so.
you looked it up this way.
Yeah.
And it popped up with
Creepers was the
so
first thing.
That is the same film. This is the second one out of the 2 80s movies that had a different name.
Yeah, The Mutilator was Fall Break.
But, which makes no sense because you don't really have fall break. That's when you first go back. Spring break. But anyway, we already explained that. Before we get too far into it, we usually let people see the trailer to get an idea of what we're going to watch. So roll that trailer.
Wait, don't we? Never mind.
Let's see now, about that time, first girl to disappear. That was September 9th. 14-year-old Danish tourist named Vera Brandt. The body was never found.
Just like the other girls. After finding this, what's the use of hiding from the facts? There's a killer. A vicious killer.
I'm sure you're going to like our school. To begin with, we all speak English.
By the way, I'm Sophie. I'm French. Jennifer.
You know, I'm really glad you're here. I've always had to sleep alone. It can be very scary. You know, there's a murderer around here. Girls our age and kills them. And then he hides the bodies.
What you did last night is highly irregular. No student ever left the school at night before.
How many times do I have to tell you that I didn't walk out on purpose? I walk in my sleep.
Have you any idea where you've been?
No. What if the killer saw me?
Have you any idea why they behave like that? It's perfectly normal for insects to be slightly telepathic.
Yeah, it's normal for insects. But am I normal? I love all of you.
I really don't like trailers.
They put way too much in there. Colin, who works here, doesn't like trailers because he knows how to put together a trailer, and he's only had to do it once, and he did it well.
He did it well enough not to give away everything,
but enough to make you go, oh, that seems interesting, which is the point of a trailer. This one's like, hey, you just watched this movie. You remember all the stuff that you wanted to talk about specifically because it's kind of like really cool? Yeah, we're going to put all of that in the trailer so that when you watch the movie, you go, seen it.
Right. It's a good thing that we watch the movie first.
Yeah, because, wow, that annoyed me. But before we get into our behind-the-scenes information like we do each week, we have to give a shout-out to our real sponsors for those playing along with the drinking game. These are actual places and people and things and stuff to do and etc. I don't know if I have to do this for etc. But anyway, this week, Gory Storytime is brought to you by Jennifer's Pest Control. Jennifer's Pest Control will not kill your pesky bug problems. They actually control them. Why murder your spiders when you can make them decorate your home? They are the original web designers after all. Ba-dum-ching. That was lame. Now your lightning bugs can illuminate your way home because, as Jennifer always says, why kill your pests when you can control them? Use code FBOMB for $10 off.
Wow. And by Remember the 80s on DVD. Remember the 80s is an old-school Columbia House style monthly service that sends you nostalgic DVDs of the 80s movies, television shows, cartoons, and even music videos. You have probably forgotten. Oh my, I'm really bad at that.
Okay, now try reading it so that people know
I'll
what
do
you just
that
said
again.
because you
Okay.
mumbled and stumbled.
And by Remember the 80s on DVD. Remember the 80s is an old-school Columbia House-style monthly service that sends you nostalgic DVDs of 80s movies, TV shows, cartoons, and even music videos you probably have forgotten. Do you remember My Two Dad?
Two Dads?
Oh, My Two Dads.
Yeah, it was a TV
No?
show.
Well, you will receive it in your first delivery. What about Two Live Crew music videos? Or movies like Hot to Trot or Ghoulies? Then this service is for you. Each month you receive 2 movies, 1 band's best of music videos, and on best of TV...
And 1.
Oh, okay, it doesn't say that. 1 best of TV show disc or cartoon show disc for $29.99, or Blu-ray for $39.99. That's Remember the 80s. Look for order forms in whatever print magazines are still in business. Goodness, that was a lot of
Complicated
words.
for you to... Yeah, I know. It's not like you had the words in front of you and you know English and how to read.
Correct.
Anyway.
Into the meat and beef of the show.
Sure. We didn't do the little description first, so if you want to do that.
I kind of already did. It's basically a crime mystery.
Yeah, there's someone murdering people.
With bugs.
There's a girl that finds out she has the ability to speak with bugs and control bugs and make them do her bidding, and she uses that to solve a murder mystery and save herself from being one of the murdered.
Right. And there's
yeah.
some dream sequences in there too.
Sure.
Kind of.
Anyway, do you want to go first or me?
You.
All right. Jennifer Connelly said in an interview that she was bitten by the chimp in this film. Apparently, during one scene, the chimp kept turning around, and Dario Argento, the director, not wanting to film her behind, asked Connelly to place her hand on the animal to stop her from turning. When she attempted to do so, the chimp became enraged and bit part of her finger off. She was rushed to the hospital, and the finger was reattached.
Huh. Fun.
No.
Not for her. Director Dario Argento. Guy. Yeah, he was here last week too. Often cites this film as his personal favorite among his works.
What did you say?
He was here last week too. I had to pronounce that name last week. I don't know what it was for, but it did.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Somebody had that last
It
name?
has something to do with... No, Argento is like a cheese brand.
Maybe I ate cheese last week.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what it was.
I don't know. Anyway, around the 15-minute mark, the story Jennifer tells about her mother abandoning her was an actual story from Dario Argento's own childhood.
Oh, wow.
Sad.
Yeah. The film was inspired to Dario after he learned that insects are sometimes used during murder investigations.
Like the larva of stuff.
Like maggots.
Yeah. Let's see. It was shot completely in English and then dubbed into Italian. And at the beginning, we were actually convinced that then they redubbed it with different voice actors back into English because it
didn't quite match
weird.
up.
It was weird, but that could have been the YouTube
part. Just being bad. The trained chimpanzee that plays Inga escaped into the woods at one point during shooting. After a few hours of searching, she was found and returned to set.
A sequel to Phenomena was going into production in 2001, the year you were born. But it was canceled due to Dario Argento's contract with Medusa, which must be the movie
company.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Mostly of the Italian and Most of the Italian and non-English speaking actors and actresses actually dubbed their own voices into English for the USA and UK distribution, which now makes sense for why it didn't quite seem to match up.
But the non-English speaking people did their own dubbing into English.
Why?
If you're going to dub, have someone that, I don't know,
speaks English.
Anyway, the Patau syndrome used in this movie is an actual syndrome which is caused by chromosomal abnormalities.
The shots of the swarm of insects covering the exterior of the school and later nearly blotting out the moon were achieved through visual effects. They dumped a bunch of coffee grounds in a tank of water, filmed it, then superimposed the new footage over existing background shots. So they
that
didn't,
explains it. Yes.
They didn't draw
it on. I noticed you could see through it, but that's because it was two...
Water.
It was 2 layers of film superimposed, so the moon comes all the way through because one of them was the moon unblurred.
Right.
Unblocked.
Nice.
The larvae were created by placing vermicelli, in water and adding liquid chocolate and essence of mint. Why does it matter how it smells? I don't know.
Okay. The painting hanging over Jennifer's bed is Village Landscape in Morning Light by Caspar David Friedrich.
Sure. Let's see. The final scene where Patau is swarmed with flies, over 2 million eggs were bought and incubated in an oven. As soon as they hatched, actor David Murata was put into the makeup and wardrobe, rushed to the set, and to attract the newborn flies, his clothes and covered face were coated in glucose, and the flies were released from very fine nets to swarm his body. After completing the scene, the crew opened the studio windows to release the flies, but they inhabited the neighborhood businesses for weeks.
Fun.
They must have been thrilled.
Right. Director trademark. Dario Argento always puts a death through a glass in his movies. And there is a murder victim that crashes through a window.
In the trailer.
In the trailer.
I'm just saying. The role of the creepy Bruckner's son was played by David Murata. He was a 26-year-old dwarf in heavy makeup. Okay, let me just take a little tangent here and say dwarf.
Dwarf?
Sometimes they say dwarf, sometimes they say little person. They're not allowed to say midget. You do realize that midget seems the least offensive to me as a tall person.
Because it's the term.
Well, it was the term invented for the condition. Dwarfism is also a correct term, but it seems like it brings up images of Snow White and like...
Elves?
Well, no, it's not elves, but it does bring up images of Snow White. little person just seems like you're actually mocking them, like, oh, look, you're just like a real person, only smaller. That,
Right.
to me, seems way more offensive than saying midget.
A little more derogatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as Brad Williams, famous midget comedian, said, you don't want me to say midget, I'm a midget. Midget, please.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. I honestly thought that was a kid.
Nope. It was a dwarf.
Right.
Dopey, I believe. See, that's the problem. Your turn.
Okay.
Director Dario.
Yeah, Director Dario, last name, said
Argento.
that his idea for the look of the killer child came from the real genetic disorder, Patau syndrome, which causes severe deformation of the face. For this reason, Argento calls the child Patau, even though he is never named during the film. Wow.
Yeah. So
That's sick.
So that answers the question we had, because one of the things we were wondering when we were watching is, like, was it the mother?
What is the kid?
Was it the mother that was the killer, or was it the kid? And because there was a spot where the mother kidnaps and was going to kill someone, so you go, oh, so it was her. And then you find out it was the kid, I guess, is the official answer. She was just protecting her son.
Right,
That's why
but
she was
then-
going to kill the girl. Spoiler, 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 spoiler.
It's not like you didn't see it in the trailer, though. I mean...
Anyway, so let's
Rotten
yes.
Tomatoes.
Yeah, on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie, according to the people, that's the average Joes like us, 68%.
Which is just barely passing, but it's still passing.
It's still considered fresh. Not certified
Right.
fresh, but it's still not rotten.
Right. And the critics gave it a 76%.
Which is even higher.
Which is even higher, yes.
Because I'm Captain Obvious today.
Just a little bit.
It's like 68. 76 is more.
Is it really, Dad? Thank you. Thank you.
So, what would you say your favorite scene was in this movie?
My favorite scene was probably the, spoiler alert, guy in the wheelchair's death.
Okay. Would you like to mention who he was? His name was Donald Pleasance.
Right.
Who was known as...
I forgot.
He was the doctor from Halloween.
Him.
In the original Halloween.
Right.
Wow, you're good. He was in a couple of Halloween movies. Anyway. Shameful.
Yeah, his death scene was pretty cool.
Okay. My favorite scene given away in the trailer when
Surprise.
she started saying, I love you. She was being attacked by all these other students when they read a secret thing, a letter she had written to her father where she claimed she had control over bugs. They decided to mock her, saying, yes, we worship you, and pretending to be bugs, and they were just being little snots. And she just turns to them, and a glow comes around her. She says, but I love you. And they think they're talking to her until flies surround the building and start pounding on the windows, and they're all like, oh, okay, no, we're scared of you is what we are.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. What was your least favorite thing about this movie?
There was a lot.
And you can't say the trailer because we didn't know about how that was until now.
I didn't like that things happened in the movie because then they cut the okay, no. I'd have to say it's kind of a tie between like a couple of different things. The terrible acting, the terrible score,
No. You leave mine alone. You knew what mine is, so knock it off.
I had actually thought that before.
Yeah, why don't you say, but since you know what mine is and you have other ones, bring those up.
Yes. The terrible acting, the fact that I couldn't tell if we were watching a movie in English for the first 10 minutes.
That's true. Either could I, though.
There's just so much to go off on. Watch the movie, you'll understand.
Yeah, my least favorite thing was the score because it would be really quiet and something a tiny bit dramatic would happen.
Not
and all of a
even.
sudden it's like heavy metal. Like, and I'm like, she's looking for like a way to answer the telephone.
Right.
I'm like, what? What? Is it really like time for, screamo music to pop on when you want to answer
Where's
the
some
phone?
Skrillex when you need them, right?
It's like, oh my God, it was such a quiet movie. We had the TV all the way up to try to hear it. And then the metal, it's like the sound designer needed to be shot. But since it was from 1985,
He might have been.
hopefully he's dead. Yes? Oh, you want me to take that back? Fine. Hopefully he's maimed.
What would you rate this movie?
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's not as bad as last week, but it's not great. I'm going to go 4.
That's where I was about to put it too. I'm putting it at a 4 too because...
And let's remember never to ask your aunt for any suggestions for horror movies, because we said, hey, slasher film, and this was...
Good. Could have been on the list too. Good,
Yeah, well,
good slasher film.
Or
because last
a
week was
slasher
bad.
film.
Or a slasher film, not just some...
weird bug mystery. It's like Scooby-Doo with, ants.
superpowers.
If Scooby was, a spider or a larva.
If just the Wasp from Ant-Man and the Wasp got her own movie in '85.
And if she couldn't be, and she wasn't an adult, she was just a wasp.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, so anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Don't watch this if you're looking for
A horror movie.
a horror movie.
There are some murder scenes. They're not that spectacular.
Don't watch this if you want to see acting. And don't watch this if you know English.
Well, no, I think a lot of
'Cause
it
that
had
was-
to do with it was translated and then translated back, and it's just weird. I think that might have been the biggest issue. I think it made the acting seem weird. And Jennifer Connelly went on to be in Hulk. She went on to be in Spider-Man Homecoming. She's been in a bunch of other stuff that I read to you that you're like, oh, no kidding. This was near the beginning of her career, not her first thing, but it's like, yeah.
Yeah, this isn't something you want to start on because this is not something you should bank on.
Yeah. But anyway, all right, let's let people know all the pertinent info about our show and etc.
We have our own
Email.
That's gorystorytime@yahoo.com. Sorry, that's http//
No, gorystorytime@yahoo.com. Send us any questions, comments, complaints, ideas for movies to review. That would be awesome. If you have any complaints, definitely send them there. Don't send them here.
and don't call
here.
them.
Last week I may have slipped up and dropped a bomb verbally. And, it happens. Don't call and complain here if you're like, did I hear that fat fellow say the F-bomb?
Yes, you
Because
did.
A, you did. And B, they still were
Played it.
expected to air it because free speech and all.
Right.
And it did say TVMA. So what are you going to do?
So yeah, complain
What
to
else?
us, not them. Follow our Facebook page. It's Gory Storytime on Facebook. Go and like our page.
You can also like Fact TV's page,
Yep.
my YouTube
What
channel,
shows? What times?
which is Juggalo Jake's, all one word. Just look
Yep.
for that. It's got music videos and parody commercials and
Yep.
stuff.
Right. What times do we play?
I believe it's 7:30 on Fridays and 8 o'clock on Thursdays, or is it the other way around? Yeah, they don't know. It's on
It's
Thursdays
now.
and Fridays. If
It's
you're
on
watching it, it's now.
It's on late Thursdays and Fridays.
Most likely, you can look on their website and see.
Check the TV guide on fact8.com.
Yeah, go to fact8.com and check their guide.
Yeah, what he just said.
That's true. Anything else? Our Twitters,
Our
which have nothing to
Twitters.
do with this, but mine's at Craig Jakes, all lowercase, all one word.
And I'm at Jason T. Jakes. Capital J, T, and J.
And we don't really talk about the show, but follow us anyway because we'll offend you with something.
Good.
Is that about it?
Yes.
So,
Until next time, I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and his father, Craig, and
Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams.